The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are simply that, opinions. All are presumed innocent until proven otherwise in a court of law. Sensitive topics are discussed. Discretion is advised.
Welcome back to On the Record. I'm Cody Thomas, and this week, courtrooms across the country were busy, and the cases were heavy. 3 trials, 3 very different stories, but all connected by the same question: what drove someone to kill? An alleged affair that turned deadly, a fire chief accused of murdering his wife, and a family massacre inside a New Jersey mansion. Let's go on the record. Now, we begin in Virginia with one of the most unusual murder cases in years. Former IRS agent Brendan Banfield is on trial for the murders of his wife, Christine Banfield, and a man he had never met, Joseph Ryan. Prosecutors say this wasn't random. They say it was a plot, rooted in a secret affair with the family's live-in au pair. Now, the state claims Banfield used an online fetish website to lure Ryan to his home, then killed him and his wife to avoid a divorce and keep control of his life. The scene was set quickly as jurors listened to the chaotic 911 call placed by Juliana Magalese, that's the au pair, where Brendan Banfield tells a dispatcher that a man stabbed his wife before he shot the alleged attacker.
He posted as Christine, seeking fulfillment of this stranger rape fantasy. He and Juliana spent weeks chatting with potential victims, searching for just the right guy who would follow Brendan's plan to a T. Because remember, this plan hinged on several things: Christine never knowing that it existed, and Christine never being expected to meet with her potential fake rapist. In this community of people, there weren't many takers for such a risky plan. It had red flags all over the place. But by January 24th, 2022, Brendan had found his target, Joseph Ryan, posting as Taco Supreme 7000. Joe engaged in friendly conversation with who he thought was an attractive woman new to kink. Brendan, posting as Christine, spent a month creating this relationship with Joe that would eventually lead to Joe's murder. Meanwhile, other things were going on to prepare for this murder. Brendan bought Juliana a gun and took her to the shooting range to teach her to shoot. Brendan had Juliana help him test out the soundproofing of the new windows that had been installed at Stablebrook Way. By the time this plan was ready to be hatched, Joe was fully on board. He had not questioned any of the asks of him. He had continued to engage in this relationship and appeared to be the perfect willing victim. Brendan created the narrative that Christine desperately wanted to be raped. Posing as Christine, he told Joe what to do. Come to the home in Reston. The door will be unlocked. Christine will be asleep in bed. Come straight upstairs, cut off her clothing, tie her, rape her. Simple and fun. That was how it was posed. Joe was willing to follow these rules that Brendan set out posing as Christine. They would not meet in person beforehand. Joe's phones would be left in the car. Joe was to bring a knife, zip ties, chains, and most importantly, he was not to stop. Even if she looked terrified, even if she was calling for help, he was to follow through because that's what she really wanted. On February 24th, 2023, Brendan Banfield's birthday, the plan was put into action. Knowing that Christine had the day off, Brendan and Juliana arranged a fake outing for the zoo a fake outing at the zoo for Valerie. Juliana and Valerie packed a lunch, prepared for this fake outing. Christine, still in bed, asleep, at 6 a.m., Brendan takes her phone and Valerie downstairs. He chats with Joe to confirm a 7:20 arrival for the execution of the fake rape. And Brendan then disables the door lock, preventing it from automatically locking, turns off Christine's phone, and puts it in a drawer in the kitchen where she couldn't possibly find it to call for help when she finds an intruder in her home. Brendan leaves the house, followed shortly by Juliana, Brendan drives to a nearby McDonald's. Juliana waits in the cul-de-sac. The plan to give a call out to Brendan as soon as she sees Joe. Valerie's in the back seat, and Juliana has a gun in her pocket. When Joe arrives, Juliana calls Christine's cell phone first to create a record of a fake warning, even knowing that the phone is turned off. She then calls Brendan to let him know that Joe is in the house. Brendan leaves the McDonald's, drives directly to the home, meets up with Juliana, and with Valerie in tow, they re-enter the house through the basement. Juliana, nervous, screws up the plan and calls 911, too early. She hangs up as soon as Brendan's giving her the signal that this wasn't the plan. They leave Valerie in the basement. They sneak up the stairs to the bedroom where they hear Joe Ryan and Christine. Brendan enters the bedroom first, shooting Joe in the head, picks up the knife that Joe had brought, and stabs Christine repeatedly in the neck. He directs Juliana to shoot Joe a second time with her gun. This time the bullet enters Joe's chest. With Christine dead or dying, Brendan spends the next several minutes manipulating Joe Ryan's body, in the process leaving Christine's blood on Joe's hands and pants. Juliana calls 911, this time as scheduled, to report the intruder, and Brendan tells the police, "I shot him, he stabbed her."
Jurors heard from the au pair herself, who has already pleaded guilty to manslaughter in Ryan's death. She testified that Banfield was the one in charge, that he gave the instructions, and that she was afraid to say no.
So you began a sexual relationship with the defendant in August of 2022 when you were how old?
I was 21.
Did he ever talk about his relationship with his wife, Christine Banfield?
Sometimes it would come up in our conversation and he would talk about it.
Did he ever talk about getting a divorce with her?
No, he basically said divorce was not an option.
So he didn't want to get divorced. Did he tell you what he wanted to do?
Yes.
What did he say?
He mentioned his plan to get rid of her. He said he wasn't going to hire anybody because that is something that throughout the investigation can be discovered easily. And that he had heard of a website called Fat Life. The website is for BDSM, people that like that kind of stuff, and he said we would be able to find somebody that plays like aggressive.
Was Christine home or not home when the two of you used Fat Life?
She was home.
Always?
Yes.
Why?
Because he always mentioned for us to make sure to log in on the account when she was also home. So it would have, throughout the investigation, it would have been very clear that like whenever she was using the profile, she was home, and yeah.
What did he know about an investigation? There hadn't been one yet.
He knew eventually we would have one investigation.
What specifically did he tell you about that?
Well, he knew that we needed to have some alibis.
What did you see when you went inside the bedroom?
When we first get into the bedroom, I could see that the bed we have in the master bedroom was kind of tall. And so from my point of view, all I could see was like Joe. At the moment I knew it was Joe, like on top of Christine, in a way only described holding her down. Brendan said he yelled, "Police officer," and Christine's first reaction, that was the first time I heard she say anything at that point. And she yelled back at Brendan, saying, "Brendan, he has a knife." And yeah, that's when Brendan first shot Joe. Joe was laying there, and they had for me to grab a towel.
What did you see Brendan do next?
When I was bringing him the towel, he got on top of her, and that's when I first saw him stab her with a knife.
Magalese returned to the stand on day 3. The defense fired back, arguing she's shifting blame to save herself and that her story has changed.
What ultimately made you decide that you were going to enter this plea?
Was the thought of being the right thing to do. I guess we all deserved to know what really happened, and I just couldn't hold it. I just couldn't give it to myself, the feeling of shame and guilt and sadness and all those feelings.
And so you decided to enter a plea. What made you decide to cooperate and testify against the defendant in this case?
Well, I got the plea because it was also the right thing to do, and also because I had a potential of getting less time.
Ma'am, you were just speaking with Ms. Sprisler about letters.
Yes.
And that was a common way for you to communicate, correct?
Yes.
Is this a letter you wrote?
Yes.
Please read the highlighted portion.
Yes. It says, "They want me to cooperate against you, your son. Since the beginning, they've told us they could make from my charges something very simple called misdemeanor, and I wouldn't be charged with this if I decided to cooperate with them. They know I'm not doing that. I don't have anything to cooperate with them. With what they say that happened, I know it didn't make them happy, so they will do anything to hold me here, anything for them to win. They've got it so far, right? I have no idea what they are making up, faking stuff, lies, etc."
Okay, and there's another portion down below.
And I said, I would give my life for his, and I would never do anything to hurt him or against him. Whatever they're saying, whatever they want to believe, I don't care. I would take the blame for both of us.
And this is a letter to Mrs. Banfield, correct?
To his mother. His
mother, Tess.
Yes.
Okay. Ma'am, if you could look at the screen, do you see a new letter there?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Can you read the highlighted portion?
Yeah, sure. It says, I would do anything for you. If they want me to turn against you, if they think or whatever they believe, and if they want to blame me for that, that's okay. I can take the blame. I'll never do anything to hurt you or against you.
Who was it you told that Brendan planned this whole thing for the first time, and when was that?
Yes, my mother.
And when was
Because,
that?
how can I tell you? I do not remember the date.
I mean, with all due respect, you don't remember a lot of details.
Yeah.
And that's what's really concerning about this.
Well, if you were in my shoes, you don't remember either.
What Mr. Carroll is insinuating, right, is that you used the Commonwealth's evidence to make up a story about what happened. Is that what happened?
It is not.
This case is a tangled web of sex, secrets, and trust, and the jury will have to decide who's telling the truth. Let's take a quick break, but when we come back, a respected fire chief, a secret affair, and a death the defense claims was not murder.
The Court TV podcast will return.
We turn now to Washington State, where Kevin West, a former fire battalion chief, is accused of killing his wife, Marcy West. Prosecutors say West strangled her, then tried to explain it away as a medical emergency. The defense claims Marcy died from a seizure. The state says the evidence tells a very different story.
This is not a case about questioning the integrity of first responders. They run towards danger and help those when they're most vulnerable, when everyone else is running out. And that trust within the community is rightfully earned. But this is a case about the actions of one man in his personal life who just happens to be a battalion chief. Members of the jury, when you evaluate the phone data, the testimony of witnesses, the medical testimony, the photographs, everything in conjunction, my colleague Jessica Smith will ask that you find the defendant guilty of murder in the first degree.
Kevin West did not kill Marcy. Early morning of January 8, 2024, tried to save her. He used his skills of 25 years of being a paramedic, his training. He tried to save the woman he'd been married to for about 22 years, had 2 children, and he wanted to, if he could, somehow save. He loved her, she loved him. But it was not a perfect marriage. You will find it was not.
This week, the medical examiner took the stand, testifying that the injuries were consistent with strangulation, not a seizure. Jurors also heard about West's affair and the state's theory that he wanted out of his marriage without the consequences.
And what is the current, well, are you and Kevin West in a romantic relationship?
Yes.
And what is the current state of your relationship?
We're engaged.
When did you first meet Kevin West?
Probably, I don't know the exact date, but it was over 20 years ago was the first time, probably 2004.
Okay. And how was it that you met?
I was a volunteer firefighter with Washougal, and he was a paramedic with Camas.
Okay. And was he married to Marcy West at the time?
Yes.
Did your relationship with Kevin West eventually turn into a sexual relationship?
Yes, briefly.
How soon after meeting?
Probably I don't know the exact date, maybe a year or 6 months. I don't know.
And how long did that first relationship last?
It was brief, maybe a couple months.
Did the two of you reconnect in 2023?
Yes.
And how was that occurred?
He messaged me.
On what?
Facebook.
Facebook Messenger?
Yes.
And what did he say when you messaged him?
I don't know the exact words, but it was, "Hi, is this Cynthia from Washougal that I knew back in the day?" I don't know exact words. It was very brief and just said, "How are you?"
And after he reached out to you on Facebook Messenger, did the two of you start communicating regularly?
I would say regularly, yeah.
How often would you communicate?
In the beginning, maybe once a week or every few weeks, and then it progressed.
When did you start communicating more frequently?
Okay, a couple months or a month maybe.
Okay. And how were you communicating?
Text messaging.
Just regular text messaging?
No, on an app.
What sort of app?
WhatsApp.
And what is WhatsApp?
It is just a different type of way to message, text messaging or calling.
Is it end-to-end encryption?
I don't think so, no.
Why would you use WhatsApp and not regular text messaging or Facebook Messenger?
I think for protection from, I was in a relationship at the time, and he would take my phone, or I assumed he took my phone, and it was easy to delete and not have it in my call history.
And did the two of you eventually decide to meet up in person?
Yes.
When was that?
I don't have the date, but it was months later.
So October, November?
Tried to answer that question, and I'm not sure on the exact date.
Where did you meet up?
The first time we met in a hotel just to be out of the public eye.
Okay. And where was that?
It was off Airport Way. I don't remember the hotel. I'm sorry.
Between the time you first met in person at that hotel and Marcy's death, how many times did you see Kevin West in person?
I don't know. I don't have how many times we met. I'm sorry.
More than 10?
Yes.
More than 20?
Yes.
More than 30?
I don't know.
And we're talking about a period from October to the beginning of January?
Oh, yeah, again, I don't know the date that we met the first time, but it's really hard for me to answer, even if it was 20 times.
And how many trips did you take with Kevin between the time you met up in person and the time of Marcy's death?
I would say at least 2 that I can really remember, maybe 3.
Can you tell us what those trips were?
I took a trip to, my mom was having medical issues. She needed a valve replacement. Sorry. And I wanted him to meet my mom.
Is your mother?
So that was in Nevada.
Okay, so you took Kevin to meet your mother. Is your mother Waltrid Ward?
Yeah.
Okay. And so the two of you went to Nevada? When was that?
I think November.
And how long of a trip was that?
A couple of days.
And any other trips that the two of you took?
We went to the beach.
Okay. And how long of a trip was that?
Oh, one day, 1 or 2 days.
And you recall no other trips?
Pardon?
And you recall no other trips?
Not right now.
Did you go to Hood River?
We drove through the river from, oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. We went to Goldendale. I apologize. I didn't remember that. And we drove through Hood River to come home.
Okay. Did you stay in Hood River?
No.
Did you stay in Goldendale?
Yes.
Okay. At a hotel?
Yes.
And when was that?
I'm not sure with the date.
Going to Goldendale, what was the purpose of that trip?
My sister and my brother-in-law found some property that they wanted to look at, and me and my other sister, we had kind of a plan to buy at least 20 or more acres so that we could all live together on a piece of property, and have my mom and dad live with us as well. And so they were the first ones to go through retirement, and we're going to be buying property there. Hopefully, that was one of the locations. So we went to go look at property.
Okay. So you took Kevin to go meet up with your brother-in-law and sister-in-law?
Sister.
Sister and brother-in-law.
Yes.
And is your brother-in-law Paul Person?
Yes.
And during that trip when you were looking at property, was there discussion of you and Kevin purchasing that property with Paul and, what's your sister's name?
Sandra.
With Paul and Sandra.
So mainly it was for me to purchase it, and if me and Kevin were to be together, it was an option for him to also go to Goldendale with us. But originally, the whole plan was for me, my sister, and my other sister to all buy property so we could live together.
Didn't Kevin talk with Paul about purchasing the property with him?
Right. I would be more likely the signer because I could sell my own home eventually. This was going to be like 8 to 10 years down the road. So it wasn't immediate thought process of purchasing it right away. They could have purchased the land and we, or me, could buy it or a piece of it.
Didn't Kevin ask Paul to carry the note until his divorce was finalized on the property?
I don't know what he talked to with Paul about.
You weren't involved in that?
I wasn't in the text message, you know.
So you're not aware of any plan with Kevin and Paul to purchase that property?
It was, I don't want to say it incorrectly, there was plans that if Kevin were to, he was going to retire in 8 to 10 years or even longer, that yes, he would move with us.
The defense has pushed back hard, floating alternative theories and questioning whether the state can prove intent. This case comes down to science, credibility, and whether jurors believe a respected first responder could have a darker side. All right, still ahead, a brother accused of slaughtering an entire family and setting fires to cover it up.
Now, back to the Court TV podcast.
Our final case this week takes us to New Jersey and one of the most brutal family crimes the state has ever seen. Paul Canero is on trial for the murders of his brother Keith, his sister-in-law Jennifer, and their 2 young children. Prosecutors say Canero cut power to his brother's home, entered with a gun and knife, and then set fires at both homes to destroy the evidence and make it look like a calculated attack on both families.
On November 20th of 2018, the defendant, right over here, murdered a family of 4 in their own home. His younger brother Keith, Keith's wife Jennifer, and Keith and Jennifer's 2 children. The defendant's 11-year-old nephew Jesse and his 8-year-old niece Sophia. He waited until dark, until the early morning hours after midnight, and he came prepared. He armed himself with a loaded handgun. He wore black nitrile gloves on his hands, and he snuck up on the family while they slept. He drove his car, it was a white Porsche Macan, to their home in Coltsneck, 15 Willowbrook Road. When he arrived, he turned off the generator to their home, and then he cut the power to the house from the outside by removing the electrical meter. And then he waited in the dark, waited in the shadows, waited for his brother Keith to come outside. Sure enough, when Keith came out to check the generator, the defendant gunned him down. The defendant pointed that loaded handgun at his brother, and he pulled the trigger 6 times. 5 of those shots hit Keith. He got him in the lower back and multiple times in the head. Once Keith was out of the way, executed on the spot, no longer able to protect his family, the defendant then went inside his brother's house, a home he'd been in countless times before, a home, you'll learn, he knew like the back of his hand, a home where Keith's wife and children were. And in there, in the chaos and confusion of having been awoken from sleep, in the shock and terror of having their home invaded, and in the dark, the defendant hunted them down. He stabbed his sister-in-law Jennifer multiple times in her back, her chest, and her abdomen, and he shot her in the head. He stabbed his nephew Jesse multiple times in his upper body and threw his arm into his chest. And he stabbed his niece Sophia 17 times over her entire 45-pound body, including deep stab wounds in her face and the top of her head. And when he was all finished, he went into the basement, inside of the cedar closet, where he started a fire. It was a slow-burning fire that smoked and smoldered for hours before anyone was alerted to it. He cut the Verizon fiber optic line in the basement that fed into the optical network terminal, and then he left. He drove back to his own home at 27 Tilton Drive in Ocean Township, about 20 minutes away, where his own wife and 2 adult daughters were sleeping. He took the gun he used, and he swapped out the barrel. So one of the things you're going to learn during the course of this trial is that bullets travel through the barrel of a gun, and ballistically, the bullets can be matched up to the barrel, while the shell casings can be matched up to the gun itself. What the evidence will show is that the defendant removed the barrel from the gun he used, and he replaced it with a different barrel. And then he put the gun away inside of a metal locker in his basement. He took off his clothing, including his blood-stained jeans and his bloody black nitrile gloves. He put them all in a pile in his basement underneath a window well. And then he went outside around back to that basement window well, just above where that pile was. And he started a fire there too. Except this time the defendant got his own family out, safe and sound. Now, Jesse and Sophia, on the other hand, were not safe or sound. What you're going to learn is that while their parents, Keith and Jennifer, were both deceased at the time the defendant set fire to their home, both having sustained fatal gunshot wounds to the head, those children were still alive. The medical examiners are going to tell you that the children's autopsies revealed that in addition to being stabbed repeatedly, they also exhibited signs of smoke inhalation. And so the evidence will show that Jesse and Sophia were still alive and breathing after their uncle repeatedly stabbed them, still alive and breathing after their uncle set fire to their home and left them, still alive and breathing as the smoke began to rise from the basement. And that, you will learn, is how those two children spent the final moments of their lives, bleeding to death and inhaling smoke. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce you to the defendant, Paul Canero.
Now, who should the police have focused on? Who should they have investigated? Well, they didn't really mention him, but there's a third brother, and his name is Cody Thomas. And you heard about this trust. The trust held a life insurance policy. And that life insurance policy by Canada Life was worth $3 million, as they mentioned. They told you that. What they didn't tell you is that the terms of the trust were such that in the event, God forbid, something happened to Keith and his family, that $3 million would get divided. $1.5 million would go to Paul Canero, and the other $1.5 million would go to Cody Canero. And this is part of the same exact motive that the state alleges that Paul had. Now, you also heard that Paul's financial situation was a house of cards. But what you also hear during this trial is that Cody Canero's financial situation was even worse. And they told you that they were working on selling it. And you'll hear that was also going to sell for a significant amount of money. A significant amount of money. Paul was not worried about money. And you'll learn that that motive is just absurd. Because you're going to learn that Paul and his brother Keith, they loved each other very much. They weren't just long-term business partners. They were lifelong brothers, 1 year apart, their entire lives. And they weren't just brothers, they were best friends. You're going to hear from people who knew them that how close they were, that they were each other's person. You're going to hear that when Paul talked about his brother, when he talked about his brother to anyone that knew them, that was his favorite person in the whole world. And those kids, Jesse and Sophia, he loved them like they were his own children. And the people that know them know he would never hurt them. You're going to hear that Keith's family and Paul's family, they were so close that they actually considered themselves one big family instead of two separate families. What you're also going to hear is that Corey Canaro was on the outside of that. He wasn't a part of that. He wasn't a part of the businesses, and he wasn't a part of that close relationship. He was on the outside. But they never investigated Corey. They never looked into Corey. They never did a single thing to investigate Corey, not a single thing. And they want you to follow the evidence. They want you to follow the money. Well, so do we. Because when it comes to the $3 million that was at stake, what you'll learn is it doesn't lead you to Paul. It leads you directly to Corey.
This is the Court TV Podcast.
Now, this week, jurors heard about financial disputes, tense phone calls, and a family relationship that had completely fallen apart. The state says this was cold, calculated, and premeditated.
When the issue arose with the payments from the trust to the student loans that you testified about, right? Keith?
Yes.
Keith was upset then too.
Correct.
And in fact, in your statement to the police, you said at that time that Keith was overly upset with everyone.
Correct.
Not just with Paul.
Correct.
Does everyone would include yourself?
Possibly.
Okay. Well, I'm asking, when you said everyone, what you meant.
When I said everyone in my statement,
When
I guess
you said-
everybody in the bookkeeping department.
And Keith obviously was upset, but he then calmed down, right?
Well, I only know the conversation I had with him. I don't know behind the scenes how he fared after that.
Okay. At least as far as you could tell, Keith calmed down. What I'm asking you is
there an answer to that? I
answered. I said I don't know after I spoke to him if he actually calmed down.
So when he just said to you that, so Keith calmed down, that's not what you're saying?
I'm not saying he did. I don't know.
Right.
In your statement, you're talking about March and April of 2018.
Okay. Yes. Go ahead.
Okay. And you agreed that you told the police that Keith at that point in time was overly upset with everyone about what was going on with the trust.
Yes.
Right? And I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but I'm just trying to read what you said, okay?
Yes.
And when you said everyone, you meant not just Paul, but multiple people,
well,
right?
Yes.
Okay.
He was venting to me about everybody, yes.
And at that point in time, in April, Keith wanted to remove Paul as the trustee.
Correct.
But then months go by.
Correct.
And nothing changed.
Correct.
Right? Paul was still the trustee.
Yes.
Keith obviously is well aware of that fact, right?
Yes.
And Keith never provided you with any documents that you would need to fill out for a change of trustee, right?
I wouldn't be anyone to fill out any documents, no.
You never provided him with the information for how to do that, right?
I wouldn't, that's not something that I handle, no.
So, as you say in your statement, months later and nothing changed, right?
Correct.
Paul, after April, wasn't replaced as the trustee.
Correct.
The defendant had 3 Porsche leases.
Next category is Tiffany and Company.
In 2017, payments totaled $17,714.
What is the total expenses in 2017?
$402,588.72.
Canero previously rejected a plea deal that would have sent him to prison for life, choosing instead to take his chances with the jury. As the evidence comes in, jurors are being asked to confront a horrifying question. How could one brother do this to another? 3 trials, 3 very different defendants, but each one a reminder of how quickly trust can turn deadly. We'll continue tracking every development, and of course, I'm Cody Thomas. As always, thanks for listening. Stay safe, stay informed, and we'll see you next time we go back on the record.
This podcast is a production of Court TV. Go to courttv.com for more content, trials on demand, and to find out how to watch Court TV in your area.